Let me pull this story up because this is relevant to what we're talking about. This is a tweet from Fox News. Not backing down, Ukrainian parliament member on inspiring civilian resistance. We know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order.
What?
Ooh. Actual quote from Kira Rudik. And the interesting thing is there's like some articles that have kind of framed it as though she was saying, I can't remember, was it National Post? They were like, she was saying the invasion would precipitate a new world order or something. No, she's saying she's fighting for it. But is she referring to it in the proper noun sense of what the New World Order is? Or is she using this phrase as a buzz phrase she heard somewhere?
I mean, it's obviously it's just, even if it is just a buzz phrase and she doesn't understand it, terrible language, especially when you've already got so many people that are like, oh, look at George Soros loves this. This is like NATO. This country is an experimental country created to create American bases and NATO and spread liberal ideology. Like terrible language when you've already got people talking about all of that. It is worth simply talking about the fact that the Western ideology, even though it's morphed into something else now, what some people would call the New World Order, some people would call this amalgamation of larger institutions. It is constantly wanting to spread itself to other countries, and Ukraine is one of those countries. And if it's just Western values that it has, that's great. But if it is getting this mind worm of all the other things that is causing America to, decay in a lot of ways, then that's a problem, isn't it?
I don't know about the grand conspiracy of the New World Order. I know it's been said by several world leaders. I think George H.W. Bush said it in the 90s.
I think it's the same word as like the deep state,
right?
Where it's like it exists, but it's not lizard people. It's like there are people within the administration that stay there even when presidents change, and that's very normal. And people can call it the deep state, and they can mean it as lizard people, or they can just mean it as
I asked Alex Jones, what's the difference between the deep state and the shadow government? And he was like, the deep state, basically the administrative state, the people that get hired and stay there for 40 years and they're not elected, but they're on the floor of Congress. But then the shadow government is like a secretive kind of global governance that's in place in case of nuclear war that's going to take control. That's what Alex told me.
So here's the issue I take with this whole idea of the New World Order is there's a weird overlap between what China is doing and people saying Biden is a puppet of Xi and they want to bring Chinese style social credit systems here. But then when it comes to the Russian invasion, China's on the side of Russia and opposed to the U.S. and the U.S. is desperate to it's like begging China, please help us.
Not only U.S. Are you talking about this invasion right now? The bank. Yeah. So Switzerland, you mentioned earlier, Switzerland defied its neutrality. Switzerland is the home of the Bank of International Settlements, which is the central bank of central banks.
Yep.
And now it's fighting on the side of against Russia or of whatever side this is.
Here's what I mean. If there was which is it? Is China's influence expanding around the world? And now Democrats went and met with China and these Communist Party members and said, wow, look at the speed at which you can build a highway. This is one of the stories we've heard. They went and they were like, how do we do this? And now you've got this happening in the West. Or is it the liberal economic order that wants to unify United States, Western nations through NATO or whatever, the European Union? Both can't be true. Right, to a certain degree, there can be some issues. That's why I'm like, it needs to be properly defined what it is. Is China, or is the grand conspiracy that Russia's invasion was all part of the conspiracy for the new?
How many levels of underwater backgammon are we playing?
Right, exactly. Or is it just make it simple? This lady said something dumb because she's dumb. Or is she part of a secret plot to overthrow?
It's like
world
the Australian health minister that said this is all about what was Klaus Schwab calling it? Thank you, Lydia.
New World Order thing?
No, she didn't say New World. Maybe
Reset?
she did. Yeah, she's like, this is for the Great Reset, and everyone was playing that. And it's like, why are you using these words?
Yeah, really.
Why?
They do
so
sound
weird.
cool, so maybe it could just be it sounded cool. Like New World Order sounds cool, really cool.
The new
G.I. Joe,
normal.
New World Order.
And it can also literally just be for publicity because then they get people talking about it. And they go, well, that's not how I meant it. Obviously, you insane conspiracy theorists, but now you are talking about it.
That's what they want. That's in this mind war that we are in, fifth generational warfare. That's what they want to happen, is for people to accidentally start saying we should do what they want.
It's hard to believe anything you watch, nothing you watch or read online. It's like, is this 12 levels of irony? Is this a serious statement? Was it a mistake? Mm-hmm. Even watching this war live, we always talked about what would it be like if we had Instagram and Twitter and everything when World War II was happening. And now we've got it, and all we're getting is a ton of fake information. Yeah. So we've got the Ghost of Kiev, who was actually, it was like a video game simulation video that went viral. And then obviously you had the footage of, or the recording of the 13 people that were allegedly killed on Snake Island by the Russian government, and like awful. But then I saw RT published an article saying, no, we actually took them captive. Here's a video of that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much different information being put out here. What do you even?
Yeah,
look at this. Hold on. The video showing Ukrainian fighter pilot shooting down a Russian plane. The Ghost of Kiev clip is from a video game, not a video of fighting in Ukraine. This is from PolitiFact.
Yeah. And there were even left-wing articles. Actually, I won't say left-wing because I don't like portraying it as left-wing versus right with Russia versus Ukraine, because Ukraine is actually very nationalist. There are a lot of right-wingers, a lot of people that support, the majority of people are supporting Ukraine. Obviously, this is an invasion by Russia. But there were progressive articles saying actually it's good as long as it's positive misinformation. And the Ghost of Kiev is misinformation that is boosting morale. And I can see how there's an argument for that, but also like, no, it's still misinformation.
Yeah, I think the truth will set you free, and we should have honest information and assessments and understanding, and people should be motivated by that. The problem is you've got, I think within the parent factions, you can call it the multicultural democracy versus constitutional republic. One side favors truth and discussion and pragmatism, and one side favors control.
Yeah.
The multicultural democracy faction is just like everyone get in line. The majority rules. And the constitutional republic is make your argument, state your case.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like the truth about what, though, because I understand wanting the truth, but not only are you get to choose how you want to demand what you want to demand, but you also have to decide what it is that you're going to demand about. Like, what are these people creating? Man, this is a vague way to put this. Maybe I can come back at this later and be a little more clear. Do you guys understand what I'm talking about? The people that are like obsessed with the truth, you're also creating reality. So if you drop bombs on someone, yeah, you can speak the truth. I killed a bunch of people. I'm not going to say that. That's not me.
In Minecraft.
In theoretical, this crazy guy might say. That was the truth. He was speaking the truth, but he was also a violent, evil person. So the truth isn't enough. You need to be good as well.
But then what I mean
now
is,
we're talking about war and what's good in war.
What I mean is in the U.S., someone says, I think our country should be doing certain thing. And I say, why do you think that? And they say, take a look at this information, this historical record, and what's happening right now. Wouldn't you agree with me? And I'd say, you make a really good point. I don't agree on that issue, but maybe there's something we can do. The left says, you're racist, you're a bigot, X, Y, and Z really happened. You should vote for me on this policy because Putin is, kidnapping babies. Or how about, the Desert Storm, the woman who said, oh, they're killing babies and all that stuff. They lie to convince you to give them something. The problem with that is if we're not in the service of function, of meritocracy, of effectiveness, then it's just ripping things apart. Things are being destroyed.
Yeah, exactly.
If somebody says, I believe we should take this action for fake reason, there's a good chance they're wrong about that action. There's a good chance it just makes everything worse. If someone's got a really good point to be made and they give you the evidence for their decisions, you can say, I understand and I agree. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, don't trust anyone who says that they're willing to allow misinformation to spread if it helps their agenda get across. Because at bottom, what they're saying is, I'm not sure if any of what I'm about to tell you from my position is actually true, but I do want you to believe it.
See, Winston Churchill used to tell the British that they were going to win the war, but he didn't know. It was just propaganda. He was just trying to make them feel good.
Hold on.
Well, if you were a leader in a military and then your country, there's some war, would you not use propaganda?
No. Well, there's a big difference between saying, Ian, if you give me $10, then I'll go save a whale and then take your $10 and go buy a beer with it.
There's difference of lying and just creating propaganda.
And me saying, give me the $10, I will save these whales, and then I try and fail. There's a big difference there.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right.
But so we only found out after the fact.
If a general comes out and says, we are going to win, it's like, yeah, that's an opinion. He's trying to boost morale. That I get. We're going to do it. And
but what if he knows you're going to lose anyways and he's just doing that? I think this, no, but this is the question. Is there ethical misinformation? Like you think about a kid who's about to die in a hospital and they're terrified and asking you, Mom, doctor, am I going to die? And you hold their hand. Yeah, you're going to die. No, like probably telling them you're going to be fine and letting them pass away in their sleep would be the ethical thing to do, even if it's a lie.
I suppose, I think, we often talk about the nuance in information. Censorship is a good one. There's such a thing as good censorship. People say censorship is wrong. It's always wrong. It's not true at all. Mm-hmm. When someone's posting like child abuse on social media, censors should remove that. And the person who posts it, illegal stuff should be taken down. Censorship can be good. Lying can be good. Like you said, if there's a child who's dying and no good is served by making the child suffer by freaking him out, then maybe the kid's got an hour to live, and you're like, don't worry, everything's gonna be fine. Your parents are here, everything's great, and then they pass away. And it's calm and peaceful. They're not scared.
So, like, can that be used on a mass scale, though? Like you were saying with Winston Churchill, like just propaganda. Even like, they use dehumanization of the other forces because they'd have that problem with people not pulling the trigger if they think of if you went out and you're like telling the truth, these people are just like you. If you sat down and had a chocolate bar with them, you could talk for hours and have a beer, and they're just like you. Who's going to pull the trigger in that war? It's a tough question.
Oh, yeah, you got to use propaganda.
Yeah, well, this is, I think, getting back to sort of the ethical bedrock here of whether it's ever okay to lie, and looking at this example of a child who's dying, I think there's also an argument to be made that you can comfort the child without lying to them. You don't have to literally say you are going to die, or even in that instance, for example, if you come from a religious household, you actually believe your child is going to go to heaven and be with Jesus. You tell them that you're going to go to heaven and be with Jesus. It doesn't require that you lie to them necessarily. And so I would say, when it comes to dealing with people on a mass scale, if you're lying, you are doing something wrong. That's what I genuinely believe.
Yeah, I mean, look.
And I understand that's a controversial position because there are a lot of white lies that people accept that you can't tell. Fundamentally, I believe that lying is never okay for any reason.
So let's talk about war for a second. Let's say you're going into war, you know for a fact you're going to win, and you stand up in front of all the troops and be like, we're going to win. And everyone cheers, and then you win. That's fine. You tell the truth. Let's say you're not entirely sure. It could go either way. But you're going to rally people and say, we will win. And that's different, right? The idea is like you have a fighting chance so long as people believe. Then if you believe and everyone's got morale boosted, I think it's fair to say you will win. I'm okay with that. If you know for a fact you're going to lose and there's limited purpose served and you're just sending people to die, wrong.
No, but there are times where they knew they were going to lose and they said, we're going to stay and we're going to win. And then lightning strikes the enemy camp and stuff like that has happened.
Well, it's true that you don't know anything for sure, but I think there's a really
positive.
important point to be made here, which is that you get into an interesting ethical question when you ask, is it lying to say something as if you know it for sure when you don't? I think that's a lot more complicated. I would argue that telling your soldiers you are going to win when there's a chance that you're not going to win could actually negatively affect your chances because we're just going to win. But if you tell your soldiers this could go either way, you got to fight really hard to make sure that we come out on top. That could be better for morale.
That's a good point, actually. And you would say we're going to win so long as you put everything behind it.
Exactly. This depends on you.
Don't falter.
Yeah.
I think that people perform better when they think they're going to win.
Well, people vote for the candidate they think is going to win just because they think they're going to win.
But like, wouldn't there? Okay, so you look at like the Gallipoli campaign, showing up on those beaches and just seeing everyone slaughtered around you and being told like, you're going to win this war, and then wouldn't that like rush doubts through your head? Everything I've been told is a lie.
Yeah.
Everything for this cause is a lie. Winston Churchill sent us here to die.
Yeah, World War II, like, I don't know, midway through the war, they decided to invade near Italy, Gallipoli. That's an island.
Turkey.
And they just beachheaded it and landed, and it was just a slaughter,
Absolutely.
British and an Australian annihilation.
Yeah.
Wow. Devastation.
I think you got to be honest. But this is the challenge. The cheaters will lie, and the cheaters get that advantage. And so you got to hope that...
But I think in the long run, lying is a disadvantage. Yeah, well, I would argue that in the long run, lying is a disadvantage because you end up in such a tangled web of misinformation that you're not making decisions based on reality anymore. It does catch up to you.
It depends on what your goal is. So when you look at a lot of these establishment players, I feel like most of their goals is just individual power, self-interest.
Yeah.
They want a nice house for themselves. Like that BLM lady who owns like 5 houses or whatever. Okay, whatever. They come out and they claim they're doing all these good things. They lie. Sure, for humanity, it sucks. It's making everything worse. People burn down buildings and die. But the individual succeeded in their plan. Lying helped them. They got what they wanted. They extracted what they could. And then those of us that say, we got to be as honest as possible. It's I'll give you an example with the stories that are coming around the Ghost of Kiev and Snake Island. What was I saying the other day, Ian, about the Ghost of Kiev? I've not seen any evidence. It's a true story.
Yeah.
I've seen clips on the internet of a plane.
Cool
I don't
story.
know what that is. It is a cool story. It's masculine. It's a hero. It's an ace fighter pilot, so it's cool. It boosts morale, but I don't know that it's true. Now it turns out at least some of the footage was not even real. It was from a video game. And so people are like, maybe this is not real. It's propaganda. And it probably is the case. The same thing happened with Covington. When that story came out, people sent me this video and I'm like, it's some kid standing there. I have no idea what this is. Well, look at the kid's face. I'm like, what about his face? I don't know. And so I looked and someone sent me a Facebook live stream showing what happened. And I was like, I don't understand. The Native American dude walked up to him. Why are you mad? Like, people are mindless towards this stuff. They just don't care. They want to believe it. The manipulation, I think, with the Covington kids really ended up being very detrimental to the media organizations. But if your goal is just to maximize your individual profits, you don't care how much damage you're causing to the system or the country or the people.
About honesty. If you see a video of a jet flying, you'll be like, I saw a jet flying yesterday. But no, you didn't. You saw a video, a bunch of pixels of some data. You didn't see the jet. And so when we're in the metaverse and we're experiencing reality, what we think we're seeing, anyway, I'm sorry.
And it's only one angle. Oh, yeah. No, I just had a thought that was like, you know, I was thinking about your point. You're like, people who lie will eventually lose. And I'm like, maybe the reason that the lies are necessary is because we've had a cultural and moral decay, whereas the lies wouldn't be necessary without that, because you could just tell someone, yeah, you know what, you might die, but this is a cause worth dying for. Well, whereas today you couldn't. People are like, no, I don't want to fight unless we're going to win.
Like I was saying about the border guards who don't care about what's happening at the border.
Yes.
There's a video that got released recently of a plane landing at an airport in, I think, what's the Westchester? Is that north of New York? I think it was maybe, but it lands north of New York, and there's a federal contractor, and there's a cop, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "I don't know. We're supposed to do this." And he's like, "Okay, well, you're not supposed to, but we're gonna let you do it anyway." And then the contractor says to the cop, "No one can know we're doing this." And he's like, "Why?" And he's like, "Because the government's betrayed the American people." Those are two guys that don't care about this country at all. And one's a federal contractor and one's a cop. That, I think, is indicative of what's happening in this country. That you would witness a serious crime by your government and be like, don't care. It doesn't affect me. You know, I think about these stories I hear from, you know, Morocco or Brazil or Russia about bribing cops. And they say it's the norm. You're in South America and you get pulled over, slip them $50 and you're on your way, right?
South African driver's license. It's just like,
is that what it's called?
They call it a driver's license in any country you go to where you can do that.
But in the United States, you can't do that. You try bribing a cop, no one would even try, because they know the cop's probably going to be like, you can't afford me, and I'm not risking, I got a body camera, it's never going to happen. But there is a certain degree of corruption that we're starting to tolerate, and that is complete self-interest. Is it so different, a bribe, right? If I give you cash versus if you overlook a serious federal crime by your government because you like the money you're being given by them.
Yeah, I think we've just got better PR than a lot of the rest of the world.
Yeah, American propaganda is the best in the world.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.